Welcome to question 110 of the secunda of the Summa Theologica. Today's topic that we're covering is lying, and I am Dr. Thibault. We are starting with the question on lying. It's important to know why. Why would we pick this topic? And I think it's important to know this issue of lying, because it's so prevalent today. A recent survey has found that every generation has found that lying is less and less morally incorrect. Generation Z finds that only 34% of them believe that lying is morally wrong. Well, this is interesting because St. Thomas Aquinas in question 110 is very clear that all lying is always wrong. It's always the order to being reduced to lying. Now, it's not so black and white in terms of degrees of lying and the severity of lying, but the idea that lying is morally correct is contrary to the theology and philosophy of Thomas Aquinas. We look to the Catechism of the Catholic Church, and we try to define what is lying. They have defined it very clearly. Lying is the most direct offense against truth. To lie is to speak or to act against the truth in order to lead someone into error. And by injuring man's relationship to truth and to his neighbor, a lie offense against the fundamental relation of man and of his word to the Lord. So it's an offense against truth. So therefore, it must always be a disorder if it offends truth, which is held to high esteem as a virtue. It also leads somebody into error, which leading people into error, again, be a very severe thing. Disordered relationship, because our relationship with others should be that our relationship with others leads them into truth, not away from truth. And it offends our relationship to the Lord. This idea that you swear on nothing, let your yes mean yes and your no mean no. If you simply keep your word, then you keep your word to the Lord, you keep your word to your brothers and sisters. It's one of the main purposes of speech is to communicate truth. So as soon as we move away from communicating truth, we're moving away from the teleos of language. If we look to the Baltimore Catechism, we can also see how the violation of truth is done, because it's built into the 8th commandment, not to bear false witness against our neighbor. Now, this is an important element of this, because when we're looking at the degrees of brokenness, the degrees of disorderliness of lying, it's important to realize this in relationship to what it offends. This idea that it offends truth is important, it offends God, and it leads others away. But the Catechism also points, the Baltimore Catechism also points that it violates the 8th commandment because to speak truth in all things and to be careful of the honor and reputation of everyone. This idea that by lying, it can lead to the dishonoring of others and destroying the reputation of others. So when we look to the degree of sinfulness of lying, this also is very important. According to the Summa, lying entails 3 things. First, one has to say a lie. A lie has to be done overtly. Secondly, a lie one has to will that it is a lie. Therefore, one has to know that it's a lie. If somebody asks me what time it is and I didn't change my watch because of daylight savings time, and I were to give the wrong time, it wouldn't be a lie if I actually believed it myself. If I intend to tell a falsehood, then it is a lie. Otherwise, if I believe it myself, then I could just be incorrect. Um, and lastly, you have to have the intention to deceive. Uh, if it's a lighthearted joke, it might not quite breach into the range of being a lie. If you don't intend to deceive anyone, everybody is aware of the joke. There are types of lies. When we look at anything dealing with Aristotle and virtues, we're looking at the golden mean, and Thomas Aquinas includes this as well. So the golden mean means the path that we must follow must be down the middle. By being down the middle, we hit the right sweet spot of what is good. But if we go to excess, we say too much, too exaggeratedly. We go beyond what is true, we move into the field of boasting. If we say too little, we don't quite give all of the truth, then we might reach into irony, something which stops short of the truth. It is the deficiency of truth, to understate something. Now, we kind of use irony differently in a literary sense, because irony is sometimes a great literary tool, and the British are great with their humor, ironic sense of humor, by being understated. A true story of priest friends of mine, they went down to Peru, and when they came back, while they were down there, one of the priests had died. And when they came back, somebody asked Father Jim, how was the trip? And Father Jim says, it was really, really good, other than Tom's setback. Well, Tom had died. Father Tom had died on the trip, but Jim says, it was good except for Tom's setback. That would be irony, right? It is not really telling the truth. He probably meant it in a slightly, he was aware, and everybody was aware that Father Tom had died. He didn't want to dwell on it, so he said something like Tom's setback. When you use irony in a way, as Thomas Aquinas is pointing out as a deficiency, or as Aristotle is pointing out as a deficiency, it's often with an intention to deceive. So a kid who gets into a car accident might tell his parents, oh, it's just a little fender bender, and the car gets home, and you see that the entire bumper is missing or something like that. Well, they understated the truth in order to deceive parents to avoid some temporary punishment. That would be irony in a moral sense rather than a literary sense. So the golden mean, again, is trying to hit it, being completely accurate, not overstating and not understating, but accurately representing the point. There's also three kinds of natures of lies as well, and they rank from the most grievous to the least grievous. Mischievous lies are ones that are mortal sins, and they intend to injure another. So those obviously are the most serious. Jocose lies are ones which are, sometimes we would probably call them like a little white lie. They intend to help another. They directed to some good for another, but they're speaking untruth, and they intend to deceive by the untruth. So it is still a misdirection of communication. It is still disordered communication. Therefore, it's a venial sin, but it's not with the intention of malice, as mischievous lies are. And then officious lies are the least severe, because they are actually directed at the good of another, out of usefulness for another. And we'll get into all three of these as we go on. When we first look at mischievous lies, the most severe lie with the most grievous consequence is a lie against religious doctrine, which is a lie against God himself. So when we lie about God himself, lie about the church, a lie about the sacraments, a lie about some type of element of religion, that can be the most grievous lie because it leads your own soul and the souls of the person you're communicating with into peril. It has a moral danger to it, an eternal danger to it, if you're leading a soul away from salvation, away from God, away from God's love. That would be the most severe. The next would be lies against one's neighbor. And this one is the second most severe. And this one is when it profits no one and it injures someone. Because it profits no one, there's no good. And it injures someone, so there's no good. So it is entirely no good. There's no goodness that comes out of it at all. Therefore, it is severe and it is grievous, and it's malicious. So if somebody were to gossip about some innocent person, making up lies about some innocent person, well, who does it benefit that you're lying about this person, gossiping about them? You're destroying their reputation, you're destroying their honor, you're destroying their relationship with other people. And what has been gained? Who has benefited from this? Nobody has benefited, and it is only injured. So that is the most severe. The third of the mischievous lies is one where it profits one, but it injures another or others. So at least there's one element of good in that somebody has benefited from it, but it's still mortal. It's still severe. So an example of this could be if a person is selling fake Rolex watches or something like that that are going to break in a week. They charge somebody a couple hundred. I suspect Rolexes are a couple $1,000s. Maybe somebody paid a couple $100s for a Rolex watch, a fake Rolex watch that they were not aware was fake, and it breaks in a couple of weeks. A person has lied about the watch, so they have made a profit. They have literally profited from the sale of a fake watch. So they have lied to benefit. So somebody has lost, the person who bought the watch, and then somebody has gained, the person who sold the watch. So I guess in some sense it's good for the person who lied. At least that's an element of good, which puts it still as a mortal sin, grievous sin, and a disordered speech, but it makes it the lesser of the three. We say, well, what about speech can make it a mortal sin? Well, something becomes a mortal sin, something which is disordered when it violates charity. So charity is love, and it's whereby the soul lives in union with God. So when we live in charity, our soul is in union with God. When we violate that charity, when we violate that love, we now fall out of union with God, and that would make it dead. It makes it grievous, very grievous, because we've fallen out of relationship. So a lie which attacks charity itself, whether it's an attack on God or on our neighbor, it would be an attack on charity. That puts us out of that union with God. And if one intends to do the evil thing, then we've fallen out of that love of God. If one intends to do it, even if one isn't successful in the lie. Let's say somebody tries to sell the fake Rolex watch, and the person catches on and they don't get fooled. The person who was selling it still intended to deceive. They intended to lie. So they have violated charity. And lastly, accidentally, which accidentally mortally sin. Well, you can't truly accidentally mortally sin, but you could intentionally sin, and the sin could become mortal by accident, I suppose. So if a person, particularly if you watch late night television, religion. You might see a lot of comedians talk about religion, and they always have to talk about uh, the abuse of priests and money and making fun of the sacraments, maybe making fun of God, making fun of the church, undermining any type of goodness or authority of the saints or of God or of the church. And they have created some level of scandal, which leads people astray. So they intended to lie about the church in some way as a joke, but the joke has become scandal. The scandal has led souls away. Therefore, they may have accidentally committed a mortal sin. Also, if somebody, let's say a priest, were to say a small sin, something that would be a venial sin if I were to say it, but if the priest were to say it, because they are a spiritual father, they have created a scandal that's above. If the Pope gets caught in a lie, that becomes mortal sin. Anytime the Pope lies, it becomes a mortal sin because of the scandal value of it. Whereas others who aren't held to the same high standards might not. It might not be as much of a mortal sin if somebody who is higher up in the ecclesiastical ladder. The fourth kind lie is the lie of habit, which is really not truly mischievous because it's not really intending to hurt another. It's when somebody has a lust of lying. They have created a habit of lying. When I picture this, I can picture somebody like a celebrity who has tens of millions of dollars, and they get caught stealing from a little store. They steal something for $10. Person has $10 million and they steal something for $10, but they're a kleptomaniac. It's not that they can't afford the thing, it's that they get some type of thrill from stealing because they have everything they need. There's nothing, they feel no thrill about anything anymore because everything is achievable, everything is available to them. Maybe people will get to that point with lying too, where it's the thrill of lying that people are driven by, the adrenaline of lying, rather than needing to lie for any particular reason. But because it's a habit, it lacks the free will to be a mortal sin. Anything that's a habitual act jeopardizes the ability for it to be freely chosen, and therefore it jeopardizes its ability to be a mortal sin. The fifth kind is the jocose lie, and that is, again, the little white lie. Many people, I think most people, especially that first survey, 34% of the youth that think that lying is not morally wrong. Probably a lot of them are thinking of this jocose lie. Sometimes you have to lie because you don't want to hurt someone's feelings. Hurting someone's feelings must be a sin too, right? So in the picture, do you like the sweater? You're going to say, no, I hate it, right? Or do you lie and say, oh, I love the sweater, even though you don't? Well, think about it. The trick would be maybe you don't have to. Just because it's true doesn't mean you have to say it. So if they don't ask you if you love it, you don't have to say that you do or you don't. You could say, oh, you're so sweet. Oh, that's so nice of you. Oh, you shouldn't have. There's a lot of things you could say that wouldn't be lying. If they said, do you like it? Yes or no, and you had to give an answer. Usually people don't put you in that situation, but if they make you say the answer, then you should tell the truth, because then all of the words that come out of your mouth lead towards veritas. It leads towards truth. And on a psychological level, be in relationship with people who are close to us, the types of people who would buy us presents. It's good to be in an honest relationship with them. It's good to be able to have a truthful relationship to them. Saying that you don't like the sweater creates an extreme hardship in that relationship. Then there are other problems in that relationship other than the sweater. Maybe the best time to talk about it wouldn't be on Christmas morning, maybe later, but at some point telling the truth would be important in a relationship. As an example, my father had bought my mother a scrimshaw jewelry. And after a number of holidays and events, finally my mother says to him, I really don't like scrimshaw. This is after maybe 6 times of him buying her this expensive scrimshaw jewelry. And here the whole time she didn't really like it. Now she probably didn't have to lie, but maybe she faked the excitement that she had when she received it. She was probably in her head saying, "Oh, brother, another piece of jewelry I'm never going to wear." I think my father finally asked her, "You don't wear any of that jewelry I buy you. Do you like it?" And she finally had to tell him, "No, I don't like it." But it would have been good probably after the first time to tell him that rather than the 6th time. Otherwise, now you have 6 pieces of jewelry you don't like rather than just having the one. So honest communication is very important. The 6th, 7th, and 8th are officious lies. And these are the types of lies which have a utilitarian element. They're useful. They're useful lies. And unlike mischievous lies, in mischievous lies, when you lie for yourself, and you injure another, whether it's God or your neighbor. When it's jocose lies, you're lying mostly to help the other person, right? It's mostly for the other, or to create peace. When it's officious lies, it's really for the good completely of the other. Why are you lying? Only for their good. So you say, well, a lie that's good for the good of another, is that a sin? If it's for the good of another? Well, it's still, we go back to the original concept that our language has a teleos, it has an end goal, it has a purpose, has a finality, and that is to lead us towards veritas, to lead us towards truth. And we have a relationship with God, who is the Word, and when we speak words, we should echo the truth, and that would be important. And it also affects our relationship with our neighbor, that we should speak the truth. But when we say a lie for the good of the other, it's not mischievous, it's not mortal, but it's still not ideal. It's not the correct ordering of our language. So if we look at something like a lie, which is intended to save the money, or I would use the property of another, in some ways is good. As an example, let's see, if we were, let's say I was going out to coffee with a friend, and a friend doesn't have a lot of money, and I know he doesn't have a lot of money, and we're out, and he wants to go to Dunkin' Donuts to get a coffee, which is by me, and he wants to treat me to a cup of coffee. And I know that extra $3 for the cup of coffee really isn't a good idea for him because he has credit card debt and everything else, and he should really not spend that extra $3 on me. But part of his generosity is what got him into that problem. So I could say, yes, yeah, I love a cup of coffee. I benefit by saying yes to a cup of coffee. I would enjoy it. But for his sake, what if I say, oh no, I had a huge cup right before I left the house. I'm all set. He might be a little bit relieved, saying, "Oh, good, I offered, but but I don't have to spend the money I don't really have." Right? He might be relieved that I lied to him like that, and I saved his pride. I didn't say, "You can't afford that." Imagine being a Dunkin' Donuts and you say to somebody, in front of everybody else, "You can't afford that." That would really be hurtful to a person, hurt their honor, which that would be sinful to hurt someone's honor. But I did it to save his honor, and because ultimately he can't afford it. Is that a sin? Well, yes, technically it still is a sin, because the correct ordering would be having a good, open, and honest conversation about that before you even got there. Right? If this is really your friend, you probably, and you're aware of their financial situation, you probably talked about it before, and you should be open and honest in talking about that in private, not in front of everybody else. And then if they offer to take you to Dunkin' Donuts, it would be good to say, in private, it would be better for you to, put that money towards your debt. I really want you to get out of debt. Like, that would be a more loving response. Might not be the most fun response. Spending money is fun, but it might be the most loving response, be to have that real relationship with your friend where you can be honest about what would be best for him in his life or her life. So truth is still better than lying, although the lie was intended for the good of another. Another one is to save a man from death. This would be, again, we're moving away from the seriousness. We're moving less and less seriousness of the lie, the consequence of the lie. So let's say the person, you're out and somebody's at the bar and they drank too much and they can't drive home anymore. So you take their keys, you put it in your pocket so they don't drive home and kill themselves driving or kill somebody else. And they say, "Have you seen my keys?" And you say, "Nope, haven't seen them. I guess I'll have to, I'll give you a ride home though." Right? You've lied. You have the keys, you know where the keys are, but you lied. Well, why did you lie? To save the person from crashing their car. Now, if you're dealing with a drunk person, maybe you will have the conversation with them about, okay, when you drinking too much is a problem, and you could kill yourself and kill others. You should have that conversation as a friend to somebody. Although I could see even for myself, I might not do it while the person is still drunk. Right? If they're not going to remember the conversation, and they might be irrational, and they might be, it might create a situation which becomes unpleasant in public. It could dishonor them more than they dishonored themselves. The momentary lie, in order to protect their life and their honor, might be better, but it's still, again, if we go back to the original, is it still as good as truth? No, it's not as good as truth. Truth is the integral good. It is the real good. But the lie has a good purpose. And then the last one, in terms of the least severe, would be to save them from the defilement of their body. Again, maybe in the same situation as previously, to save them from killing somebody else. Right. So if the person got into a drunk driving accident and they killed themselves and they killed somebody else, then their last act on earth was to take an innocent life with no ability to repent, no ability to make amends, to confess what they've done, to change their life, to turn to God. So that if you were to let that situation continue, you could risk this person's immortal soul, and who knows the person that they killed? They could be risking their immortal soul too. There's death of body, which is temporary, but then there's eternal. You don't want to risk somebody's eternal immortality. So to save the person from a grave sin, you have to lie a little bit. Is the least offensive to God, and it's still not the ideal. It's still not good, but it's not as severe, certainly as mischievous. Is every sin a lie? Well, according to Aquinas, yes, every sin is a lie. Contrary to the the Barna poll that we looked at earlier. Every sin would be a lie because it lacks that integral good. Something to be good must be good in all ways, right? It has to be good 100% for it to be good. If it's evil 1%, then it's evil. A fly in the ointment ruins the ointment. A fly in the wine ruins the wine. A single defect makes sin, the whole action, sinful. Disordered, it just means it's in the improper ordering of the good. And intentions matter, as we can see. Mischievous versus officious lies are different. Their intentions matter. Not every sin is equal. Not every lie is equal. It frequently comes up in the question 110 is the biblical question of the midwives. And this is from the book of Exodus, chapter 1, where, if you recall, and go back to read it if this is helpful for you, Pharaoh says to the midwives, the Egyptian midwives, to kill the male children of the Hebrews because they were growing too numerous. So he wanted them when they're born. As soon as they're born, if it's male, kill it. But the doing this, the calls in the midwives to ask them a question: why are you not? Why are they growing? Why are the boys alive? I see young boys running around Egypt, Hebrew boys. What's going on? And the midwives respond: Hebrew women are not like Egyptian women. They're robust and give birth before the midwives arrive. You know, the women are just in the field working and a baby pops out, and before the midwives even show up, the child's been born. This is a lie. The midwives have told a lie to Pharaoh. Well, how does God respond to this lie, this sin, this distorted act? Well, God dealt with midwives, and the people multiplied and grew very numerous. And because the midwives feared God, God built up families for them and built for them a house, spiritual house. So God rewards these midwives, but they lied. They lied to Pharaoh. Their one action was a lie. They're being rewarded for a lie, it seems. Another issue would be that's brought up in the story of Jacob and Esau. Jacob stealing, lying to their father Isaac to get the birthright. The inheritance land. Jacob lied. St. Thomas, he talks about this a bit. These are found in the Objections. You can find this, not really in his main response, but I think they're important because one of the big hypotheticals that's always talked about is, what if you have Nazis knocking at your door during World War II and ask, are you hiding Jews in your basement? And you are. Do you lie to the Nazis and tell them, yes, I'm hiding Jews in my basement? Or do you lie to the Nazis, right? This is the big debate. And some people, even coming from a Catholic position, sometimes say, well, you got to tell the truth. You know, maybe you try to avoid answering the question. But Nazis are kind of direct. Maybe they say, yes or no, tell me the answer. Unlike the sweater grilled so heavily, they would say, well, you really have to tell the truth, but I would probably lie in my own life. Well, when we look at Thomas Aquinas, it's actually a lot, it's almost spelled out pretty closely. In his response, he says, their feelings of kindness towards the Jews and their reverence and fear of God, for which their virtuous disposition is commanded. God rewards them for protecting the Jews. Well, how much closer to the Nazi hypothetical could you get? So if you were to say, I hid the Jews in my basement for fear of God and for kindness of my neighbor, I told a little lie. Well, is the lie still a lie? Yes, it's still a lie and it's still a sin. But what does God do to people who lie a little bit if it's to protect their neighbor out of fear of God? God rewards them, which is interesting because right here, you know, if we say, Who is most like Pharaoh? Well, Nazis are an awful lot like the Pharaoh, right? Evil against God's Jewish people, Jews. Very similar situation spelled out. But it's important to know that God is not rewarding the lie. He's rewarding their good actions towards the Jews, the protection of the Jewish people, the Hebrew people. That is what God is rewarding, the protection of the neighbor and fear of God. They say very clearly, the lie was not meritorious. The lie was still sin. And then when he points out in a later question, he goes, God giving these rewards to the midwives, it's not the lie. He's rewarding their good actions. And if God sees that they protected the Jewish people and they have fear of God, they have tons of merit. They have tons of merit within their life. Is God going to now damn them to hell for telling a lie? No, the lie is still a lie and the lie is still a sin. But their soul is not in danger of death after doing something so great and so meritorious as the kindness towards one's neighbor and fear of God, which are much greater commands than don't lie. If we go back to the eighth commandment, the root of it, the root of this teaching, it's to not badmouth your neighbor. It's not to destroy the honor and reputation of your neighbor. It's lying to protect Jewish people. Destroying the honor and reputation of your neighbor, not even close. It's not even close. So it's not even close to violating the heart and the spirit of what it's about. Is it a violation of the idea that all language should be directed towards truth? Yes, it still violates that. Is there ever a reason to lie? And this is another, it's found more in the objections. They kind of say yes, but I would really disagree that it's really a lie. The issue they show is, what if the situation has, what if the thing that you promised, the thing that you said you were going to do is unlawful, it's sinful, violates the divine command. So as an example, let's say you decide you're going to go out with your friends tonight, you're going to go out drinking and carousing and doing drugs and having a good old time. And you tell your friend, yep, we'll do that. I'll meet you at 11 o'clock tonight. We're going to go out. And after dinner, you decide to go out for a drive and you see your old home parish open, the doors are open. You decide you're going to stop and walk in, and they're having adoration. And you kneel down and you say a prayer, and something starts in your heart. And you look over and you see there's a line for confession. You go and wait in line, and you go to confession, and you confess it all. And your tears are running down your face. You've had a change of heart of who you are and what you're doing with your life and where you want to go. And you leave the church. And as you're driving home, you realize, oh yeah, I told my friend I was going to go out for this rock night at 11 o'clock. I don't want to do that anymore. Well, can you lie to your friend? If you don't know, you've lied to your friend. You said you were going to go out, now you're not going out. Well, really, is this a lie? I really don't think it is. I know this is kind of an exception to it, but I don't think it's a lie, because if what you said was to your friend earlier in the day, let's go out at 11, I'll meet you at your house at 11. What you said you meant. Did you intend to do it? You intended to do it. Did you intend to deceive him? No, you didn't intend to deceive him. You really intended to do it. You planned on doing it. You told the truth. Something has changed within your life that you're not going to follow through with what you said, but that doesn't make it a lie. Another one would be a change of circumstances. Let's say you then call your friend and say, let's go say a rosary instead of going out tonight. And your friend says, okay, I'll go do a rosary with you if it's that important to you. And you go home and you have dinner and you shower and you go to drive over to your friend's house to say a rosary and your car won't start. Battery died. Well, did you lie to your friend? You said you were going to go over to his house and you didn't go. Well, the circumstances has changed. The car broke down. Again, when you said you were going to go, did you mean it? Yes. Did you intend to go? Yes. Did you intend to deceive? No. Well, then it's not a lie. It's just a matter of a change of circumstances. The two other forms of what we covered a little bit, officious lie, but the other one that needs to be covered when talking about venial sins would be joking. Is joking, what if you lie when you're telling a joke? It still comes up as not directed towards the truth, so therefore it's still in some sense a lie. But I think to this one, we still have to look at the circumstance and the surroundings to it. So if you say to your friends, I'm about to tell you a joke and it's not true, and then you tell the joke, well, then you didn't lie at all. But it's also not a very funny joke, right? If you're in an environment where you can tell a joke, and by the end of the joke, everyone's laughing and they realize it was a joke by the end, is it still lying? Did it really intend to deceive? Depend, right? It would depend on the situation. It would depend on the joke. I think you could take it too far, perhaps, if you maybe some jokes people are unsure by the end if it's really telling the truth or not. And it depends on the joke, but still, if in the telling of a joke we have to deceive people, we have to tell and intend to deceive people and to not tell the truth, then it's not really the proper ordered act of communicating. Therefore, it is less than the ordered. Therefore, it is disordered. Therefore, it is. Again, it could be quite venial depending on the situation. You know, so every deacon Al at the parish, he starts every homily he does with some joke. It would mean he started every homily with a venial sin, which I guess could happen. But I think people are quite aware week after week that when he begins to tell a story, everybody's quite aware that he's not telling an actual real life story. The other one is when you lie for the sake of the good of the neighbor, which again is officious lies, which we've already. In conclusion, lying is still, according to a Thomistic approach, sinful. It is still disordered. It is still misdirected communication, which can lead people away from truth. If we speak too much, then it is boastful. If we speak too little, it's irony. We'll get into these in future questions. There are different kinds of lies. There's mischievous lies, jocose lies, officious lies. They have different degrees of severity and for different reasons. Not to look at every lie as the same. Every lie is a sin, but not every sin is equal in its severity. The most severe types of lies, the ones that we have to worry about the most, are the ones which lack charity. Those are mortal sins. Those are from union with God, which is very serious. And when we're dealing with these moral situations that are very difficult, you know, the ones like what happens when the Nazis knock on your door, you know, difficult moral decisions, it's important that we have a clear vision, but it's important not to lose that there's gray area, that even when we look at something like the midwives, God can reward the good that we do if it was intended for the good. The good might overpower the venial nature of that sin of lying. And it could be also play into this idea of double effect, although I tend to think that the midwives, they really did intend to lie, but they weren't lying for the sake of lying. They were intending to protect Jewish people, God's chosen people, and out of fear of God. So that was what they intended to do. The double effect was that they had to lie to do it. So in some ways, there's a little bit of one hand washes another, which gives us some area for discernment. And that's all we have for today. God bless.